In the dazzling, unpredictable world of social media fame, where millions chase the same dream, one woman managed to turn a single post into a global obsession. Her name, Vera Dijkmans. But behind the perfectly curated photos and seductive smiles lies a story that few have ever heard. A story of persistence, vulnerability, and transformation. A story that challenges everything we think we know about fame in the digital age. Born in the Netherlands, Vera wasn't born into stardom. There were no famous parents, no agency contracts, no shortcuts to success. What she had was a quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't scream for attention, but demands at the moment you see her. Yet, even then, no one could have predicted that this Dutch girl, once posting modest selfies from her bedroom, would one day become one of Instagram's most talked about women, and one of the most desired. Her rise wasn't accidental. It was strategic, deliberate, and, at times, controversial. As other influencers relied on fleeting trends, Vera understood something deeper. That power in the digital world doesn't come from imitation. It comes from identity. And she built hers one image at a time. When she first started posting, her early photos were simple, raw, authentic, and unfiltered. But soon, her following began to grow. There was something magnetic about her gaze, something that made people stop scrolling. Brands began to notice. So did fans and critics. Within months, she had gone from obscurity to stardom, her follower count exploding into the millions. But success in the influencer world is never without its shadows. With every new follower came judgment, scrutiny, and whispers. Some accused her of being too perfect. Others claimed her fame was manufactured. Yet behind the glamorous exterior was a woman who understood the price of digital dominance and was willing to pay it. What no one saw was the long nights behind the lens, the self-doubt, the endless recalibration of her image to fit a world that changes faster than a single scroll. Vera wasn't just taking pictures. She was crafting a narrative, one that blurred the line between the person and the persona. And that's where the mystery begins. Because Vera's story isn't just about beauty or attention, it's about control. Control of perception, control of destiny, control of how the world sees you when it refuses to look deeper. She became not just an influencer, but a phenomenon, the embodiment of what millions of young women dream to be, and what millions of men idealize but can never truly reach. Yet, even as her fame soared, the question remained, who is Vera Dijkmans behind the perfection? What drives a woman to create a life that's equal parts fantasy and reality? And how much of herself does she lose along the way? As we peel back the layers of her journey, from the girl next door to a global sensation, we'll uncover not just the secrets behind her fame, but the truth about the cost of being desired by the world. Because in a universe where beauty rules and validation is currency, Vera Dijkmans didn't just play the game. She rewrote the rules. But what happened when the fantasy began to blur with reality? When admiration turned into obsession, and fame became something far more dangerous than anyone could imagine? The answers lie ahead, in the story of a woman who rose higher than anyone expected and faced the shadows that came with the spotlight. Fame, it looks flawless from the outside. The shimmering photos, the lavish collaborations, the millions of followers. But what most people never see are the invisible battles fought behind the filters. For Vera Dijkmans, success came not from luck, but from an unyielding resilience that was constantly tested by a world obsessed with perfection. When Vera first began to capture attention online, her photos ignited conversation and controversy. To some, she was a symbol of confidence, self-love, and feminine power. To others, she was an easy target. The internet, after all, can build empires in one post and destroy reputations in the next. As her audience multiplied, so did the scrutiny. People questioned her authenticity. Rumors spread faster than truth. Critics labeled her fame as manufactured beauty, reducing her craft to an illusion. But behind the surface of those glossy photos was a woman meticulously shaping her identity, not for validation, but for control. She wasn't chasing fame, she was constructing it. Vera understood something that many never do, that visibility comes with vulnerability. Every post became a gamble. Every smile, a statement. Each image she shared was dissected, debated, and judged. And as the noise grew louder, Vera faced her first major challenge: how to remain herself in a digital world determined to define her. For a time, the pressure became overwhelming. There were moments when she questioned everything: her direction, her worth, her purpose. The comments could cut deeper than they appeared. In the quiet moments away from the cameras, Vera wrestled with an unsettling truth. In the influencer world, your success is public, but your pain is private. Yet this was also the crucible where her true strength was forged. Rather than retreat, Vera transformed her struggles into fuel. She began to use her platform more intentionally, not just to showcase beauty, but to project power. Every photo, every caption became part of a larger narrative, a declaration that she was more than the digital avatar the world tried to define her as. Still, the challenges evolved. The more fame she gained, the more expectations she carried. Partnerships with luxury brands poured in, along with sponsorship deals that cemented her position as one of Instagram's elite. But with influence came responsibility, and with that, the constant fear of missteps. One wrong word, one misunderstood post, and years of hard work could vanish overnight. What set Vera apart was her ability to adapt. She didn't crumble under criticism. She learned from it. When controversies surfaced, she stayed silent long enough to study the landscape, then responded with precision. This wasn't weakness, it was strategy. She was crafting not only her career, but her legend. There were rumors, of course, whispers about her personal life, speculation about her relationships, debates about her authenticity. But instead of letting gossip define her, Vera turned the spotlight back on herself. Always in control, always composed. Each new scandal only seemed to make her more intriguing, more untouchable. And perhaps that was her greatest achievement, mastering the art of mystique in an age of overexposure. Where others sought to be relatable, Vera remained elusive. She became a fantasy the world couldn't fully grasp, and that mystery became her brand. Still, even as the numbers climbed and the headlines multiplied, Vera was fighting an internal war. The fame that once felt empowering began to feel consuming. The expectations grew heavier, the eyes on her sharper. It's one thing to rise. It's another to stay at the top when the world wants to pull you down. Yet, it was precisely in this tension, between admiration and criticism, confidence and doubt, that Vera's true power began to surface. She learned that every challenge was a test of endurance, every attack an opportunity to redefine herself. The same online world that once threatened to break her became the stage where she rebuilt her empire, stronger, sharper, and more unapologetic than before. Because for Vera Dijkmans, challenges weren't setbacks, they were the blueprint of reinvention. But the question remained, how did she take the chaos, the controversy, and the criticism and turn it into one of the most successful influencer brands on the planet? The answer lies in her next move, the moment she stopped being a follower of trends and started creating them. After weathering storms of scrutiny and public doubt, Vera Dijkmans did something most influencers never dare to do. She evolved. She wasn't just a face anymore. She was a force. What began as a digital experiment transformed into an empire that blurred the boundaries between personal brand, business, and global phenomenon. Her turning point came when she realized that attention alone wasn't power, control was. Vera understood that in the modern influencer economy, visibility without strategy is a temporary thrill. But visibility paired with intent? That's empire material. And so, she began to build hers, quietly, intelligently, and relentlessly. Each decision from this point was deliberate. She refined her aesthetic, a signature balance of sensuality and sophistication. She studied engagement metrics, audience behavior, brand psychology, learning not just what people wanted to see, but what they didn't know they needed to feel. Every post became a calculated stroke in the larger portrait of her digital dynasty. The brands took notice. Luxury labels sought her endorsement. Fashion houses courted her with collaborations. Her image became synonymous with exclusivity, not because she chased it, but because she embodied it. She was no longer competing in the influencer world. She was defining its direction. But building an empire is never linear. It takes more than beauty to sustain global relevance. It requires reinvention. Vera embraced the challenge head-on. She began expanding beyond Instagram, exploring new digital territories, content partnerships, paid platforms, lifestyle ventures, and strategic collaborations that amplified her influence beyond any single algorithm's reach. At the 7-minute mark of her journey, something remarkable happened. Vera's name was no longer just trending, it was transforming the conversation about what it means to be a modern woman in control of her image. She wasn't simply part of the influencer culture, she was a case study in how to master it. Behind every viral photo, there was structure. Behind every glamorous pose, there was purpose. She understood brand architecture, how to construct emotional loyalty, not just visual attraction. Fans weren't just following her, they were investing in her narrative. Vera's empire wasn't built on chance, it was engineered through intention. She merged beauty with business acumen, blending allure with analytics. Every move she made was a lesson in digital mastery. She didn't chase virality, she commanded it. Her collaborations became status symbols. When Vera wore something, it sold out. When she endorsed a brand, its visibility spiked overnight. She had become an economy of influence, a walking algorithm in human form. But beyond the glamour, there was something deeper, a mindset that defined her growth. She often spoke about confidence, but not the kind born from compliments. Her confidence came from knowledge, knowing her audience, her strengths, and her worth. She turned self-awareness into a superpower. As she expanded her reach, Vera also began to reshape her image from influencer to entrepreneur. Her digital empire wasn't about vanity, it was about vision. She leveraged her platform to create financial independence, brand ownership, and long-term sustainability, something few social media stars achieve. And through it all, she remained true to her guiding principle: control the narrative, or someone else will. That mindset became the cornerstone of her empire, a fortress built not from followers, but from loyalty, not from fame, but from influence. But even as the empire grew stronger, the demands grew louder. Success has its own shadows, and for Vera, the pressure to maintain perfection was relentless. Every success came with new expectations, every achievement with higher stakes. Still, Vera never flinched. She adapted, recalibrated, and pressed forward, mastering not only her craft but herself. Her story had become a blueprint for a new generation of creators who saw in her more than a model. They saw a mogul in the making. And yet, as her influence solidified into empire status, something extraordinary began to take shape. Her transformation from a digital muse into a brand of meaning. But what exactly made Vera Dijkmans so visually captivating, so unmistakably distinct in a sea of influencers? What separated her from the countless faces competing for the same spotlight? To understand that, we must step into the world she designed, a world of image, elegance, and identity. In a world overflowing with faces, filters, and fleeting trends, one of the greatest challenges for any influencer is distinction. But for Vera Dijkmans, standing out was never an accident. It was an art form. Every image, every pose, every expression she shared was meticulously curated to tell a silent story. Her brand wasn't just about appearance, it was a language of aesthetics, emotion, and power. When people scrolled past her photos, they didn't just see a woman. They felt her presence. That feeling, that magnetic pull, became the foundation of her personal brand. Vera's signature style can best be described as a marriage between sensual confidence and soft sophistication. She understood how to balance allure with elegance, making her image both aspirational and approachable. Her fashion choices, from minimalist streetwear to high-glam couture, told a visual story of evolution. She wasn't simply wearing trends, she was shaping them. But what truly defined Vera's branding wasn't just the way she looked, it was how she made people look at themselves. Through her imagery, she communicated empowerment, self-acceptance, and unapologetic femininity. She reminded her audience that beauty wasn't about conformity, it was about control. Her feed became her canvas, perfectly lit, color-balanced, and emotionally tuned. Every shade, background, and body language choice was intentional. The golden hues she often used evoked warmth and confidence, while the soft whites suggested purity and refinement. These weren't random artistic touches, they were psychological cues, designed to create a bond between image and emotion. Vera knew the algorithm as well as she knew the mirror. She studied the rhythm of posting, the science of timing, the psychology of engagement. But she also understood something far more important. People don't remember what they scroll past, they remember what moves them. And Vera's visuals moved people. Her online persona radiated quiet dominance, a woman entirely in control of her image, her emotions, and her narrative. Yet, behind that poise was a profound authenticity. She never tried to be someone else. She refined who she already was. That's what made her brand timeless in a world of fleeting fame. Her style was minimalist, but never empty, luxurious, but never loud. She could turn a simple outfit into a statement because the power was never in the clothing, it was in the confidence wearing it. As her brand matured, so did her aesthetic. The once playful influencer had evolved into an icon of digital sophistication. She became her own muse, the embodiment of the empire she built. But Vera's genius wasn't limited to visuals. She understood the symphony of consistency. Her captions carried tone, poised, mysterious, and occasionally introspective. Her stories revealed glimpses of humanity, just enough to maintain connection without surrendering privacy. In an age where influencers overshare for attention, Vera mastered the opposite. She withheld just enough to remain unforgettable. That mystery became her greatest marketing tool. Her brand positioning was clear: empowerment through elegance. She wasn't competing for attention, she was commanding it. Every aspect of her online presence, from profile color themes to bio wording, was crafted to reflect exclusivity, beauty, and self-possession. She knew her niche, and she owned it entirely. And in doing so, Vera Dijkmans became more than a social media personality. She became a visual signature. The moment her photo appeared on a feed, there was no need for a caption or tag. You knew it was her. That is the hallmark of a true brand, not one that screams for recognition, but one that is instantly recognized. But what happens when the digital muse decides to evolve beyond beauty, when the influencer transforms into an entrepreneur? That next chapter would reveal the full scope of Vera's ambition, the moment she turned her personal brand into a living, thriving business empire. For most influencers, fame is the finish line. For Vera Dijkmans, it was just the foundation. Behind the flawless photographs and viral moments was a woman who thought like a strategist, a visionary who understood that influence without enterprise fades with time. Her journey from influencer to entrepreneur was neither impulsive nor opportunistic. It was deliberate, calculated, and inspired by a profound awareness of her own value. Vera had seen too many stars rise and fall on the tides of social media trends. She knew that the true measure of success wasn't the size of her following, it was the stability of her future. So, she began to diversify. Vera turned her brand into a living ecosystem, one that could thrive beyond the confines of Instagram. She recognized early that her audience wasn't just engaging with her looks. They were drawn to her lifestyle, her confidence, and her aura of empowerment. And she knew how to transform that admiration into business. Her first major step into entrepreneurship was establishing partnerships that aligned perfectly with her personal image, luxury, authenticity, and allure. But Vera wasn't satisfied with being the face of someone else's product. She wanted ownership. She wanted legacy. It began quietly, with exclusive collaborations and private label ventures. Every partnership was handpicked, every campaign carefully tailored to her brand's DNA. When Vera endorsed something, it wasn't because it was trending, it was because it fit her narrative. This integrity became her entrepreneurial trademark. As her influence deepened, She began developing her own product lines, beauty and lifestyle collections inspired by the aesthetics that made her famous. These weren't vanity projects. They were extensions of her identity. From premium beauty formulations to apparel concepts that embodied confidence and sensual elegance, every creation carried her signature essence. Her audience didn't just buy products, they bought beliefs. The belief that beauty could be empowering, that femininity could be strength, that success could be self-made. In a marketplace oversaturated with imitation, Vera's authenticity became her biggest currency. But perhaps her most powerful business move was understanding the psychology of exclusivity. Instead of flooding the market, she cultivated desire. Limited releases, curated campaigns, and personalized engagement created a sense of rarity, making her followers feel not like customers, but like insiders. Beyond products, Vera explored digital entrepreneurship, launching premium content platforms and subscription-based experiences that allowed her to connect with her most loyal fans. These ventures weren't just profitable, they were personal. They offered access, intimacy, and inspiration, key ingredients for sustaining long-term relevance in the creator economy. Her ability to merge influence with innovation earned her a reputation as one of the most business-savvy models in the digital space. She transformed her online persona into a powerhouse brand, one that generated revenue streams across fashion, beauty, and exclusive digital content. Vera's empire expanded quietly but efficiently. She avoided overexposure, focusing instead on precision branding, letting quality speak louder than quantity. Each step she took reinforced her position not just as a model, but as a modern entrepreneur redefining what it means to own your image. Yet behind the business acumen, there was still the same core message that fueled her from the start: self-empowerment. Vera's ventures weren't just about profit, they were about purpose. She wanted to inspire women to see themselves as brands, to understand that their identity, passion, and confidence could also become their business. She often said in interviews, "I never wanted to depend on luck. I wanted to design my success." And that's exactly what she did. Vera Dijkmans transformed her influence into infrastructure, building a brand that could stand independently of any algorithm or trend. She mastered what many never realize, that the ultimate goal of fame isn't recognition, it's freedom. But beyond the empire, beyond the wealth and partnerships, lies a side of Vera that many overlook, a side defined not by glamour, but by generosity. Because even as she built her fortune, she never forgot her foundation. And in her next chapter, Vera began using her platform not just to build wealth, but to create change. Behind the glitz, the luxury, and the curated perfection of Vera Dijkmans' online persona lies a heart deeply anchored in empathy and gratitude. For Vera, success was never just about the spotlight, it was about what she could do with it. As her influence grew, so did her sense of responsibility. She had seen firsthand how social media could amplify not only beauty, but also purpose. And she made a conscious decision to use her platform for something greater than self-promotion, to give back, to inspire, and to uplift. Vera's philanthropic journey didn't begin with a headline. It began quietly, away from the cameras, in small gestures that carried immense meaning. She donated to women's shelters, mental health programs, and children's charities across Europe. These weren't one-off acts of kindness. They were commitments rooted in her own belief that true beauty shines brightest when it uplifts others. She often said, "Empowerment is contagious. When one woman rises, she gives others permission to do the same." And she lived by that creed. Vera became a vocal advocate for women's self-worth, mental health awareness, and body confidence. She used her voice to challenge the toxic standards often associated with the modeling industry. Instead of chasing perfection, she promoted authenticity. Instead of projecting unattainable ideals, she celebrated individuality. Her social media feeds began evolving, showcasing not just glamour, but growth. Her captions became reflections of self-love, her interviews radiated sincerity, and her brand became a symbol of emotional strength. But Vera didn't stop there. She collaborated with nonprofits to raise awareness about online bullying, a struggle she had personally endured in her early career. Through campaigns and workshops, she helped young creators and models learn how to navigate fame without losing themselves. Her philanthropic work extended beyond digital activism. Vera began supporting global organizations focused on women's education and small business empowerment. She understood that economic independence was the true foundation of confidence. By sponsoring programs that provided skills and resources to underprivileged women, she turned her influence into impact. What made Vera's advocacy so powerful wasn't just her donations, it was her presence. She showed up. She spoke at events. She listened to stories. She connected with people beyond the filters and photo shoots. To her followers, Vera wasn't just a model, she became a mentor in disguise. Someone who proved that vulnerability could coexist with strength, and that kindness could stand tall in an industry often defined by ego. Her message resonated globally. Fans began sharing how Vera's words helped them regain confidence, leave toxic relationships, or embrace their true selves. Her community stopped being a fan base, it became a movement. And that's what set her apart. In a digital world obsessed with appearances, Vera Dijkmans dared to lead with authenticity. Her philanthropy was not about performance, it was about purpose. She gave her platform a soul, and in doing so, redefined what it means to be a modern icon. As her fame continued to soar, Vera's legacy began to take shape not through numbers, but through lives touched. Her story became proof that influence is only meaningful when it's used for good. And while many knew her as a social media sensation, those who looked deeper saw something far greater. A woman using her beauty to build bridges, her voice to spark hope, and her success to serve something beyond herself. In a world where fame often fades faster than it arrives, Vera Dijkmans stands as a reminder that legacy isn't measured by followers, but by impact. Her journey, from a young woman navigating the complexities of online beauty culture to a global influencer who shaped her own destiny, is a testament to courage, vision, and reinvention. She transformed social media from a mirror of validation into a canvas of purpose. Vera's story is one of contrast, the struggle between perception and reality, between glamour and authenticity. She lived through both sides, and instead of being consumed by them, she mastered them. She turned every challenge, every criticism, every moment of doubt into raw material for growth. Today, her name doesn't just represent an influencer, it represents a movement. A reminder that in the pursuit of fame, staying true to yourself is the ultimate rebellion. Her legacy lies not only in her images, but in the invisible threads of empowerment she has woven across millions of hearts. From young women learning to love themselves, to creators daring to be authentic, Vera's influence stretches far beyond the confines of a screen. She once said, "Perfection is not what people fall in love with, it's truth." And perhaps that's the essence of her allure. Beneath the gloss and filters, Vera Dijkmans revealed something real, a reflection of resilience, vulnerability, and grace. Her story challenges us all to look deeper, to see beyond what's posted, to remember that even in a digital age obsessed with image, the human spirit still craves authentic connection. As the camera fades on this chapter of her life, one thing remains certain. Vera Dijkmans has not just built a following, she has built a legacy. A legacy that continues to whisper one timeless message, that beauty is power, but truth has immortality. And perhaps that's the shocking truth behind her fame.